the controversy rolls on. If you're not caught up, let's rewind a bit. In the 1980s, a few friends from a computer club came together to create games. By 1988, they branded their company as DMA Design and were eventually acquired by Take-Two Interactive. During this time, they began developing a game called Race and Chase, which would eventually be rebranded as Grand Theft Auto. As the game neared completion, early tabloid reports started attacking it, condemning the gunplay and reckless driving as morally outrageous. Conservative politicians called wind of hit-and-run missions and glorified crime sprees, which had been leaked to the press by none other than the infamous publicist Max Clifford. Despite the uproar, the game was released without being banned and became a cult classic. Following its success, an expansion pack was developed by Rockstar Canada, which led to the release of Grand Theft Auto London in 1999. If you're interested in more details on those games, be sure to check out my Grand Theft Auto Retrospective playlist. But today, we're moving forward. In 1999, the original team returned to deliver a sequel that will mark the final entry of the 2D era before GTA transitioned into the 3D world. They took the foundation of the first game and built upon it. Welcome back to the Retro Fans' Retrospective. Today we're rushing through town with a wanted level with Grand Theft Auto 2. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment and thank you for tuning in. If you're a fan of video game retrospectives, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. Next year, we're launching the Rockstar Takeover covering all things Rockstar games, from Grand Theft Auto to Red Dead and LA Noire. Quick update, this will be my last Rockstar video until then, so stay tuned for what's coming next as I have some quality retrospectives coming your way. Let's dive into this. With the surprise hit of Grand Theft Auto in 1997, DMA decided to push the envelope even further with the sequel. Now, behind the scenes, Take-Two acquired BMG Interactive, since dormant for 1.85 million shares worth $14.2 million in March of 1998. Through the acquisition, Take-Two also attained the intellectual property of Grand Theft Auto. Dan Houser subsequently moved over to Take-Two as its vice president of worldwide product development, in charge of internal and external development studios. Dan Houser and some of his former BMG Interactive colleagues formed Rockstar Games as a publishing label for Take-Two in December of 1998. The newborn company commissioned its internal studio, Rockstar Canada, to develop two expansions for the original game, Grand Theft Auto London 1969 and Grand Theft Auto London 1961. If you want to know more about those two games, check out my GTA London retrospective where I go into Rockstar Canada's history. Let's continue. During this time, DMA Design was going through some financial difficulties. They had partnered with Nintendo and BMG Interactive, but things weren't going as smoothly as they hoped. Eventually, they ended up being sold to Gremlin Interactive, and then later to Take-Two in 1999. It was a bit of a whirlwind, to be honest. So, while all this corporate drama was unfolding, the team at DMA was hard at work on GTA 2. They were trying to push the boundaries of what they'd done with the first game, introducing new features like the gang reputation system and a more dynamic world. They also went for this futuristic dystopian vibe that was quite different from the first game, based on apocalyptic versions of the future from 70s and 80s cinema. This was a dramatic change of scenery for a series that was only one game deep. Simultaneously, while the game was in development, a short 8-minute live action film was released. Interestingly, the movie was filmed in New York City. The film follows a man named Claude Speed, played by Scott Maslin, who conducts jobs around Anywhere City for several criminal syndicates until his actions eventually catch up on him. The game would be a technical leap for the series, with real-time lighting and bigger, sharper sprites giving the visuals a significant boost. The wanted system was also overhauled, throwing aggressive SWAT teams, roadblocks, and bazooka-wielding National Guard soldiers to the mix. Deeper AI meant gangsters and cops will fight each other on the street, making the city feel more alive. There was plenty of new stuff, but art and setting aside, it wasn't as bold a sequel as some people expected, more of a refinement of what came before. It's worth noting that despite all the changes happening at the corporate level, the developers at DMA seemed to maintain their creative spirit. It's clear that they were still passionate about making innovative games, even as the business landscape around them was shifting. As I said in my GTA London retrospective video, Dan Houser once again would take the helm as writer for this project. Get used to hearing that name often when I start the Rockstar Takeover next year. The last thing I need to cover, and this is a bit of a shock, is the fact that this was David Jones's last project before leaving DMA, something I will go deeper into next year. Everything DMA was working on would eventually come to light on October 22nd, 1999, when DMA and Rockstar Games released Grand Theft Auto 2.
Respect is everything.
Now, although this game has a writer in Dan Houser, I have to be honest, there's not really a narrative of this game, but I can summarize the gameplay of GTA 2. So picture this. You're this guy named Claude Speed and you're dropped into this crazy futuristic city called Anywhere City. It's got this gritty dystopian vibe that's totally different from the first GTA. You're looking at the action from a top-down view, which might seem a bit old school now, but it was pretty cool back then. Now, here's where things get a little interesting. The city is split into 3 districts, and each one is like its own little world with different gangs running the show. You've got the downtown district, the residential district, and the industrial district. And in each of these areas, you're dealing with 3 different gangs. It's like a criminal buffet, and you get to choose who you want to work for. The gang system is really the heart of the game. You've got these 7 different factions, and they're all vying for control. There's the Zaibatsu Corporation, which is like the shady megacorp that's in every district. Then you've got the quirky groups like the Loonies, who are exactly what they sound like. The Yakuza, some mad scientists, rednecks, the Russian mafia, and even the Hare Krishnas. The cool thing is you can choose who you want to work for. You pick up missions by answering payphones scattered around the city. But here's the catch. If you do jobs for one gang, the others might not be too happy about it. The cool thing is the system directly impacts your gameplay options. If you got high respect with the gang, they'll offer you more lucrative and usually more challenging missions. These are accessed through different colored payphones, green for basic missions, and red or yellow for the high level stuff. But if your respect drops too low with the gang, they might start attacking you on sight when you enter their territory. This creates this really dynamic, reactive world where your actions have consequences. You might decide to focus on one gang, becoming their go-to guy, but making enemies with everyone else. Or you could try to play all sides, carefully balancing your respect levels. From a story perspective, while GTA 2 doesn't have a complex narrative, the respect system does allow you to shape your own criminal career path. You're essentially writing your own story as Claude Speed, deciding which gangs to ally with and which to betray. As for the missions, they're pretty varied and often hilariously over the top. One minute you might be running over taxi drivers, the next you're robbing a bank or dealing drugs. There are also these fun bonus stages where you might find yourself busting up ice cream trucks for points. And let's not forget about the chaos you can cause just roaming around the city. You can steal cars, blow up stuff, get in shootouts with the cops, and if you really push it, you'll have the army on your tail. It's this sandbox of mayhem where you're free to do pretty much whatever you want. The game also introduced some features that became staples of the series, like the 6-star wanted level system and side missions like taxi driving. Plus, you can save your game at a church by making a donation, which is a nice touch. All in all, GTA 2's gameplay is this perfect mix of mission-based progression and freeform chaos, all wrapped in this weird futuristic package. The original version of Grand Theft Auto 2 was released on October 22nd, 1999 for the Microsoft Windows and the Sony PlayStation. Let's start with the PlayStation port, which had some pretty significant drawbacks compared to its PC counterpart. The PS1 just didn't have the muscle to handle everything the game threw at it. The graphics took a hit, with textures being downgraded from 256 colors on a PC to a measly 16 colors on PlayStation. And forget about changing the time of the day. The PS1 version was stuck at high noon all the time. The developers had to make some tough calls, cutting content like trains to make the game fit. Controls were a bit of a nightmare too, with the lack of analog sticks forcing them to use tank controls. And let's not even get started on the performance issues. Slowdowns were pretty common, especially in busy areas. Loading times were longer too, thanks to the CD-ROM drive, but it wasn't all bad. The core gameplay and that cool respect system were still there, so PlayStation owners could still get a taste of the GTA 2 experience, even if it was a watered down version. The PC port is generally considered the definitive edition of the game, offering the full GTA 2 experience without the technical limitations of its console counterparts. On PC, GTA 2 boasted superior graphics with higher resolution textures and more vibrant colors compared to the PlayStation version. It also features smoother gameplay with better frame rates and less slowdown in busy areas. One of the coolest features was the ability to switch between noon and dusk settings, giving players two distinct atmospheres to play in. The PC version also included all the content that had been cut from the PlayStation port due to memory constraints, like the train system. Controls were more responsive thanks to mouse and keyboard support, making it easier to navigate anywhere city chaotic streets. Additionally, the PC version allowed for mods and custom content, extending the game's lifespan for enthusiasts. While it might look dated by today's standards, the PC port of GTA 2 remains the best way to experience this game. Moving on, the Sega Dreamcast port was released on May 1st, 2000 in North America and July 28th of the same year for European audiences. On the surface, it boasts improved graphics compared to the PlayStation version, running at a higher resolution and featuring the dust lighting mode from the PC release. The Dreamcast's more powerful hardware allowed for better draw distances, more on-screen characters, and generally smoother performance. However, the port suffers from some notable issues that mar the experience. Players have reported problems with the in-game radio, which often restarts when entering vehicles instead of continuing playback. There are also claims of missing car damage models, though this is disputed. The controls adapted for the Dreamcast controller can feel less responsive than the PC version. Additionally, some content may have been cut or altered in the porting process. Overall, while the Dreamcast version offers visual improvements, it's generally considered an imperfect port that doesn't fully capitalize on the console's capabilities, possibly due to a rushed development cycle to meet its spring 2000 release date. The last port to talk about is none other than the Game Boy Color port, which was released in December of 2000. This port is a fascinating adaptation that manages to capture the essence of the original game despite significant hardware limitations. Developed by Tarantula Studios and published by Rockstar Games in 2000, this version had to make several compromises to fit on the handheld system. The game shifted from a 3D top-down view to a 2D isometric perspective with simplified graphics and a reduced color palette to accommodate the Game Boy Color's capabilities. Despite these changes, it retained the core gameplay elements, including the respect system and multiple gangs. Interestingly, this version allowed players to select from multiple characters rather than just playing as Claw Speed. The audio was completely reworked by Anthony Patton to fit the Game Boy Color's sound chip, resulting in a chiptune soundtrack. While critics were somewhat lukewarm about this port, many players appreciate the effort to bring GTA 2's open-world gameplay to a portable device. The Game Boy Color version even saw a later re-release on Java 2 ME mobile devices, extending its reach beyond the original handheld. So when GTA hit the scene in 1999, critics had some mixed feelings about it. On one hand, many praised the game for its improvements over the original. They loved the new respect system with the gangs, which added a layer of strategy to the chaos. The improved graphics and the larger, more detailed city also got some thumbs up. Critics were particularly fond of the game's satirical humor and the over-the-top radio stations, which will become a landmark of the series. But here's the thing, not everyone was completely sold on it. Some reviewers felt that GTA 2 didn't push the envelope far enough. They saw it more as a refinement of the original rather than a big leap forward. The futuristic setting was divisive too. While some thought it was a cool change of pace, others missed the more grounded contemporary feel of the first game. The gameplay itself got some flack as well. Critics pointed out that the missions could feel repetitive after a while, and the top-down perspective and controls were starting to feel a bit dated, especially with 3D games becoming more common. Some reviewers also felt that the game's difficulty could spike unfairly at times. That being said, most critics agreed that GTA 2 was still a blast to play, especially if you were a fan of the original. They appreciated the chaotic, open-ended gameplay and the freedom to cause mayhem in the city. The game's attitude and irreverent humor were also big selling points. Now, this is how critics saw the game. Let's dive into how the common gamer viewed the game. A lot of players who loved the first GTA were pretty excited about the sequel. They dug the improved graphics, the bigger cities, and especially the respect system with the gangs. That added a whole new layer of strategy to the game that many found really engaging. Players loved the freedom to choose which gangs to work for and the consequences that came with those choices. It made the city feel more alive and reactive to their actions. The humor and satire of GTA 2 were big hits with gamers too. The radio stations with their over-the-top ads and DJ chatter had people cracking up. It's the kind of stuff that would become a hallmark of the series, and players were already loving it in GTA 2. But it wasn't all praise, you know? Much like critics, some folks felt the game was a bit too similar to the original. They were hoping for a bigger leap forward, especially in terms of the top-down perspective and controls. A lot of players found the tank controls frustrating, especially when trying to navigate at high speeds or in tight spaces. One common complaint was about the difficulty. Some players found the game pretty tough, especially when it came to certain missions or dealing with the more aggressive police response. The lack of an in-game map also frustrated a lot of people, making it hard to navigate the city and find mission locations. Over time, GTA 2 has developed a bit of a cult following among fans. While it might not be as widely celebrated as later entries in the series, there are plenty of gamers who look back on it fondly, appreciating its unique place in the evolution of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. I'm going to be honest with you all. This game was interesting to say the least. I've played multiple GTA entries in the Grand Theft Auto series, and I have to say, I really enjoyed the graphics of this game, and the soundtrack was definitely a standout. It feels like Rockstar started experimenting more with the music in this one, and I think it paid off. These two aspects, visuals and soundtrack, were definitely the game's strong points. That said, what really bothers me about GTA 2 is the lack of a cohesive story. At this point in the series, a lot of narrative elements were pulled from GTA London, as both were written by Dan Houser. While one game excelled in certain areas, the other stumbled. I can't help but wonder what GTA 2 could have been like if it had a more fleshed out storyline, especially given the potential with the gang's factions and the respect meter system. We've seen this concept used to its full potential in later games, and we'll be diving into that more next year. Now let's get back to GTA 2. While the missions do feel repetitive, I did appreciate the level of freedom it gave players. You could approach the game however you wanted, which was a step in the right direction for open world gameplay. But in terms of overall franchise improvements, it doesn't feel like GTA 2 moved the needle that much. In many ways, it feels like an overhyped game. Rockstar hit gold with the original Grand Theft Auto and made some minor improvements here, but ultimately GTA 2 feels more like an expansion pack than a full-blown sequel. I do have to say the mature themes were bold for the time, and they managed to pull it off in a way that was both violent and fun. However, if we're comparing versions, the PlayStation release was a bit of a letdown. The PC version had multiplayer and better visuals, while the PS version felt sluggish and missed out on some of those features. Don't get me wrong, GTA 2 is a solid game, but it might be slightly overrated in the grand scheme of things. If you're looking for an impressive title on the PlayStation, GTA 2 is worth a shot, but it's not the masterpiece you might expect. If you made it this far, I want to say thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm so more people can discover content like this. Keep an eye out for the next retrospective coming soon to the channel. This is the Retro Phantom, signing out.